I don't want like half of it's going to sound
I
one
might.
way.
Well, I'll get to redo that intro then. Although it was kind of funny.
I'll play what the first one sounds like because they'll both be recorded. You can hear what the difference is.
All right.
We are recording. You can hear me. I
Yes.
think we're good.
All right.
We could talk about how we just fucked it up, but that's fine.
Yeah. Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to a Word Hole Media presentation of Major League A-Hole's Sox Top Thing. Presented by Revolution Brewing. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. You are indeed listening to Sox Type Thing under the Major League A-Hole's umbrella. It is our inaugural episode of Sox Only podcast, as opposed to our flagship In the Hole podcast, which I think we're going to be up to 105 episodes as we record that one this afternoon.
Later this evening at this point.
Yeah, we've had some technical issues that have delayed this first episode, but we're back on the horse, so to speak.
Get up now.
Rest assured, we are not done with In the Hole by any means. We're simply splitting off the White Sox coverage to its own podcast. It's Sox Type Thing was its own segment at one point on In the Hole, and it's evolved to its own Twitter feed now at Sox Type Thing that you can find.
Hit us up, man.
Pete is dominating the Twitter sphere now, running that account. And it's now its own podcast. So I kind of don't know where this is going to go. It's a weird thing. It's a lot of different things. It's a Sox type thing. So we'll see where this goes.
It's different here.
Yeah. No, that's the other side.
Well, sorry.
But you rest assured you will find In the Hole where you always have found it. We will be recording that episode, like I said, 105 right after this is over. So you can find both podcasts for all your Cubs, Tigers, Giants, A's, and across Major League Baseball news that we like to talk about. So, but here we are talking White Sox exclusively. So I think we are at the perfect point in White Sox history to be starting a Sox only podcast, as one Tony La Russa made some interesting decisions yesterday. In fact, I've often referred to this as Russapalooza.
You know, and I think, is this our first? We had Russapalooza towards the beginning of the season last year because of
the DUI stuff.
DUI stuff, and then like Liam Hendricks running from staying in as the runner, even though he didn't have
knowing
to.
the rules.
Not knowing the rules. Oh, is that a rule? Well,
yeah,
no one told me.
That's kind of evolved, or maybe I'm just evolving it to everything involving the circus that is Tony La Russa. He might be the most hated man in Chicago right now. Is that fair to say? Or
I think that's fair to say.
Most controversial man, at least.
You know, as White Sox fans often complain about, we don't get good national media coverage, but we are in the last 12 hours or so, as what I'm about to tell you is probably not going to be news, but we need to talk about it here.
Yeah, if you don't know about the 1 and 2 intentional walk at this point, I mean, you're probably not listening to a White Sox podcast either. So,
you probably have not been watching the news. I mean, this is not this is being talked about everywhere. But yes, Tony La Russa intentionally walked a great hitter in Trey Turner, but our pitcher Bennett Souza had a 1-2 count on him, which was a bit puzzling. Now,
I would say curious is one way to describe it.
The one thing that had changed after the 1-2 count was that Freddie Freeman had advanced to second on a wild pitch on a terribly thrown ball by Souza. Nothing to blame our backstop Yasmani Grandal about.
Not
that time. No. In fact, overall, I was shocked. So a lot of the highlights I saw, he caught an amazingly great game with Cease burying some sliders too. But that's not what this is about. This is about why would a veteran manager who has been hired to take your team to the next level walk a hitter who has a 250 batting average with 17 strikeouts over 40 at bats with a 1-2 count on him. Well, Tony tried to defend it in this postgame conference by saying, "Is that really a question?"
Yeah, he was very defensive. He definitely is that even a question? Like, everyone was an idiot for even thinking that he could possibly be wrong about this.
And he tried to play like an analytics card, which, would have been great back when he originally managed, because we probably wouldn't have been able to find it. It would have just been, all right, it's still a very questionable move.
Believe the manager that has binders and binders of information.
But the team has all this information. It must be true. However, it's not really true. I looked up stats, and like I just spit out, Trey Turner's batting average and OBP are 250. Tony claimed domination over perhaps the lefty righty matchup. That wasn't necessarily the case either. So, outside of Muncy just coming back from injury and not having great numbers this year, perhaps though earlier in the season was because he was dealing with an elbow problem. Besides that, and just doing the archaic, lefty matchup idea, there was no reason. I mean, the stats show that there's a 75% chance Trey Turner is going to make an out in this situation.
If that was really his reasoning, he would have walked him, before he got to a 1-2 count. It would have been 0-0 count. It just give him 4 and send him out.
Well, I think the only, I don't agree with the action. The only difference was Freeman advanced to second and you kept the force. That's a good point. Force on. Yep, that's the only difference.
That's a good point.
But again, statistically, if you're going to throw analytics out there, the analytics point to there was a better chance of Trey Turner making an out than there was him reaching base. And you know what? Why don't you just go have a mound conversation and say, hit your spot, don't give him anything too good to hit. Now, the question is, you're Bennett Souza, you're ahead on this guy. What are you thinking in your head when your manager decides it's best to walk this hitter
that you have an advantage over, that you think you can strike out at this point?
Right.
It neuters him right out there on the mound.
Yeah. It's better for us to walk him than you to try to throw pitches to him at this point. At least probably a minimum of 3, unless he induces them into some sort of out or swing and miss before the arbitrary 3 pitches that would have led to a walk. But I'm not gonna speculate the amount of pitches he would have thrown Trey Turner after that. All I know is it's a confidence breaker for that pitcher who hasn't been pitching all that great as of late. He had a very good April. An okay start to May, but he's come back to a level we probably would have assumed he should be pitching at. But the question, there's so many bad moves in this game by our manager. But another one is in a winnable game, in a game where Jake Berger just came back after committing some terrible errors while Cease was still in the game in the 5th. That led to 6 unearned runs in that inning, hits a solo shot to get us within 1 run. To me, that's a winnable ball game, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So normally I would manage the bullpen as I'm bringing out my A guys. Not bringing out the B team. I'm bringing out the A team to transition to hopefully what is a lead or a tie, and you get to Liam Hendricks in the 9th, right? And you have your longer, if you're into a tie ball game, you have your more stretched out arms like a Ronaldo Lopez or whatever to go to in that case after that point. But that is not what we did. We have a unproven, not pitching well, didn't pitch all that great the night before, Souza in the game instead of Bummer or Graveman, who hadn't pitched since Tuesday night when I was there.
It just makes you think, always with baseball, there's things that the fans don't know that the managers do. Shit happening in the clubhouse, whether there's minor not injuries, but arms aren't feeling well. They need a couple days off. That's just stuff we're never going to be privy to. But it just seems logical to be utilizing Graverman and Bummer at that point. So especially since they hadn't pitched since Tuesday, it's obvious. It just seems obvious that they should have been available. But
I mean, are we saving them for this upcoming Texas series? I mean, I'm not terribly. I mean, Texas has a very similar record to the White Sox, so I guess I should be more worried about them. I should be more worried about them, but
when you have a chance to beat up on a World Series contender,
I mean,
seems like a good time to do it.
The bats, they were getting hits. They didn't produce the runs they needed to in Game 2. They went against a very good pitcher so far this season in Tony Gonsolin, but I mean, they had more than enough hits to actually win this series, like sweep the series. But they scored 9 runs yesterday.
Yeah,
they should have won enough. Yesterday's game.
Yeah,
but they lost 11-9 because we used Jose Ruiz in the game. The aforementioned Bennett Souza. We also used who was wedged in there too. Another frightful. Kyle Crick didn't pitch that badly, but. Anyway, not the names you would see coming out of exactly. And here's my thing. If you don't want to use Graveman or Bummer yet in the 6th, because you're saying you're setting up the 7th, 8th, and 9th, okay? Then why didn't any of them come out after the Souza inning?
Yeah.
It's just, to me, that's managerial stupidity. But again, you do bring up a good point, Smitty. Perhaps they have been used. I mean, Graven's been used a lot already. So perhaps, Tony is always talking about the long game, but the long game is no good if you don't have the record to get there.
Yeah. If you're 3 games below 500 and not showing signs that you're crawling out of that at this point, there's other larger issues at hand.
So that's the, Russapalooza for that game. But another glaring choice he made this week, which we all knew would light up the Twitter sphere, was and a lot of media, including Chuck Garfien losing his mind, was the embattled Lurie Garcia in the leadoff spot of Game 2.
Ooh, that was a hot button topic.
Holy shit. I didn't think there would be a more hot button. I didn't think the button could get any hotter than that, but somehow, thank you. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. It's like the Jelly of the Month Club right now for La Russa. He gave us more with this 1-2 intentional walk. But yeah, Garcia was the leadoff hitter, which even at this point, because of how he's got the guaranteed rate logo right now. He's going down.
Arrow pointing down.
How curious of a decision it was. In fact, even if you're using Tony's logic, when we saw Andrew Vaughn in the 9th spot earlier this year, and he said it's like a second leadoff hitter. Using that logic, Lurie Garcia probably should have been batting in the 8th spot in this lineup.
Yeah.
Instead, Mendick, who has been doing an admirable job of filling in for Tim Anderson in the leadoff spot, was in the 9th spot. And Garcia was in the leadoff spot where he proceeded to go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and also commented that the game was a pile of shit or something along those degrees. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't mince words. He did not mince words, but the more glaring problem within that game was really, and again, I think it was, again, a poor decision to put him at leadoff spot, but Robert, Manka, Abreu, and Grandel went 1 for 15 in that game.
Yeah, it didn't really matter. But
it didn't really matter.
Why are you putting someone, of Lurie Garcia's ilk? Why are you giving him more at bats than anyone else in the roster? We've done this lineupista discussion for forever on In the Hole and on our blog for decades, but it's not so much the batting order. You used to the thinking as an on-base percentage guy in the leadoff spot, and then somebody to hit him, move him over at the number 2 slot, and then someone to hit him in at the 3 slot. It's all about getting plate appearances.
Exactly.
That's the way managers need to be looking at the lineup. Like put your put your best hitters at the top of the lineup so they hit more. I mean, it's simple math at that point. You don't have to overthink things. And for the idea that you'd ever have Lurie Garcia, at the number 1 slot is laughable. But then when I think it was the Sox broadcast, or was it during the broadcast, or it must have been post game, where they showed the graphic of Lurie Garcia's stats in the leadoff slot versus when he's in the 9th.
Well, they did show him pregame, and it's like
pregame. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go back to the analytics, Tony.
Yeah.
Apparently you missed that one too.
Do you have those numbers? I forget. It was like 1-8. He was in the high 100s in the leadoff spot.
I think it was like as bad as it was like 167 or something along that line in the leadoff spot. And I think he's over 300 in the 9 spot or something. Well,
and his OPS was solid. His OBP and OPS were more than respectable in the 9 slot, but they're horrific in the 1 slot. It's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to fill holes for starters, and you're trying to get a guy. I understand you're trying to get a guy going, but that's not why would you put a guy you're trying to get going who's been having trouble at the plate in a high pressure situation? That doesn't seem logical to me. In most cases, when someone's having issues, you move them down in the lineup. Example. Now we can move off into some better news. Pete at the Park on Tuesday night for his 4th victory out of 5 games. He's moved to 4-1 as I talk about myself in the third person.
Yeah, this is a new one. I haven't heard you refer to yourself in the third person in 25 years I've known you.
I've moved to 4-1 on the year. But Yohan Moncada was down in the 7th spot in the lineup that night, basically to take some pressure off him and try to, get his bat going. And, he got I think he was 1 for 3 that night. So, that is the normal idea, not put someone in the leadoff spot. So all of these things that have occurred is why I made the post on Twitter on Sox type thing is Tony La Russa actually trying to get fired. I mean,
that's my favorite take on this whole thing since this all began. Like, that's the only logic I can think of that would actually apply.
Yeah, I mean, this is unbelievable. But Tuesday night was a fun night at the Park. Kopech is dominating. I mean, this guy has allowed a total of 2 hits to the Yankees and the Dodgers now. I mean, he's the only pitcher right now who's pitched over 50 innings and in those innings, he only has 24 hits. So he's allowed less than half the amount of innings he's pitched. He's allowed a hit in. Wow. So it's like just crazy numbers. Right behind him though is Tony Gonsolin, who the Sox face the next night. So not surprising that the Sox had that outcome. But it was just a really fun game. It was kind of nice to see the Sox not to just like get a bunch of base hits and extra base hits in a row to build that 4-0 lead. That's almost like home runs are great and they're fun, and all of a sudden it's 4-0 or something like that because you hit a grand slam, or it's 3-0 on one swing. But when a team bats around in an inning, to me that's even more exciting, really. Like it just keeps the momentum up. But yeah, the weather turned out to be nice. I had text Smitty because it was originally supposed to be cloudy and windy, and it was sunny and light winds. So it turned out to be a nice night at the Park. But one of the other cool things about that evening was we were celebrating Steve Stone's 40 years in the broadcast booth, and he got to throw out the first pitch, which was cool to see. And then in between innings, they played all these different segments from different broadcasters he worked with or who he's crossed paths with. Bob Uecker was on, Chip Kerry, Hawk, of course, Al Michaels. Wow. But it was really, really cool to see. And I think you got something to add here.
Well, I'd like to take a page out of our In the Hole podcast and take our new segment over there called Power Rankings, very cleverly titled. I'd like to rank like our favorite Steve Stone booth partnerships over the years. He's the main ones, at least. He's had obviously the where I was introduced to Steve Stone is with the Cubs and Harry Carey over the years. Following that, it was Harry's grandson, Chip Carey. After that, after both of them were unceremoniously removed from the organization, Steve went over to the White Sox and partnered with Hawk Harrelson. And then the current relationship with Jason Benetti. And I've got opinions. Obviously, I think maybe you and I can talk these out. I think it's pretty obvious where we're going to go with this. But you want to start from the worst, the lowest of the 4 power rankings.
Well, I think we're going to be unanimous on that, and that's Chip Carey, right?
That would be number 1. Yeah, number 4, I guess.
That would be number 4. I did not like him. I don't really like him at all as a broadcaster, really. No. I don't find anything interesting about him. I don't think he really adds to the game. I think he's merely gets into the game because of his grandfather and his father is why
that's a big part of it.
He gets to keep a job. So
he's a mimbo, as the Seinfeld term would come to mind. Yeah, I don't. He's not a horrible broadcaster. He's not a great broadcaster. The first thing I think of when I think of Chip Carey is him botching the call in Game 163 of the Tigers in Minneapolis against the Twins. I forget which year that was. Probably 2011. It was extra innings, a play-in game essentially to get to the playoffs, and he says, "Line drive, base hit, caught out there." And Waddle and Sylvie play that clip all the time on ESPN 1000 just because Tom Waddle cannot get over how ridiculous that call is. I remember watching the game and trying to see what was happening, listening to the broadcaster, and having no idea why people were running around or what was going on at the moment. And it was like the most critical moment in the most critical game of the season, and he completely botches. That's the first thing I always think of with Chip Carey. The other part is how they both got fired for being critical of the Cubs organization, which was something we talked about a little bit on In the Hole last week. But I think it's easy to rank them lowest on the Steve Stone power booth partner power rankings.
Yeah, now it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, this is tough. I mean,
no, it's not necessarily that number 3 is shit, a shitty partnership.
No, but
it's just the lower ranked. So
yeah, I know it's lower ranked. I guess we just have to go Stone and Benetti at 3 because just because I love them on the air together, they bring me such great joy. But it's only a few years in, right?
I was gonna rank them number 1.
All right,
which is surprising.
I'm okay with that, but like, I guess I've got this childhood nostalgia thing for Harry and Stoney together.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a White Sox fan, but
so I think that leaves Hawk and Stone being number 3 then.
Yeah, I'm fine with that just because poor Stone. This is what I think about how Steve. I think Steve Stone and Jason are so fun to listen to because Stone's just like finally competency. Well, because he had Harry at the end of his career, where he was out of his mind saying racist stuff on the air.
He was drunk. I mean, let's not mince words. I mean, Kerry was drunk on the air most of the time. So,
and then
that could only be challenging for a young broadcaster to learn from. But
and then he got Hawk on the downward spiral of basically Hawk turning into almost like a parody of himself.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is you had 2 guys with pretty large egos trying to share the same booth and share very different perspectives on baseball. And Stone, I forget how many years he had already been a broadcaster, but he is well established and well known for his baseball acumen. And Hawk wasn't they butted heads a lot in the booth.
Yeah, they did.
You never think. I've never ran into any other booth other than maybe the Tigers with Mario and Pembla and God damn it, I forgot his name. The color commentator for the Tigers who actually got into fisticuffs in Sox Park, and actually had led to their release from the Tigers broadcast booth. But so that's the only other confrontation I can imagine along those lines. But I think it was just a battle of egos, and it was an uncomfortable listen at times. I've never liked Hawk. I've always liked Stone, so I was always on Stone's side of things. But it was just kind of a tough listen at times.
I mean, sometimes there was nothing to listen to.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that was our joke. We used to make fun.
That's right.
We used to make fun. I think we used to do it in writing, folks, or tweeting, or posting on Facebook in the early days before we started this podcast. We would like randomly, when it gets silent, we might just like do a quick post on Facebook when that's all we were using, and just be like, are the mics working on the Sox game and things like that? Because when something went bad for Hawk. But when something didn't go the way he liked it, he was kind of very much a baby about it, and would become really quiet in the booth. And while that may lend itself fine during a tennis match or in a golf commentary, it does not for baseball. You don't expect to turn on the broadcast and be like, "Is everything okay?"
Well, everything was not okay. There was some serious tension. By the way, it's Rod Allen. I was trying to think.
Oh yeah, Rod Allen. That's who. Yeah, that's who it was.
So I think we've got Hawk at number 3. So I think number 2 and number 1. I think we're gonna split on this. I'm putting Harry at number 2. Although that is my introduction to Cubs baseball. That is many people's introduction of our age. I, of course, grew up a Tigers fan, moved to Chicago in 1997 when I was 24 years old, and went to a Cubs game 1 month into my tenure in Chicago, and started watching. I had seen plenty of games on WGN, but really didn't pay too much attention. But they became my second favorite team after my Tigers. But a lot of that was the fun of the Harry Carey, Steve Stone combination. Harry Carey's the large personality, one of the largest personalities in baseball history.
Yet he was very short.
Yes. And coupled that with the extreme baseball acumen of one Steve Stone. It was a great combination to be indoctrinated into Chicago baseball.
It was fabulous.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that you were so positive about it. I think you're being generous, and I think pretty realistic on what a great combo is, even though I know how much you hate the Cubs.
Well,
you enjoyed those broadcasts. So.
Well, I kind of listened to Cubs games at first. I didn't really know Steve Stone, but I started watching Cubs games and listening in because of Harry Carey going over from the White Sox, because he was the entire voice of the White Sox for me growing up.
Sure.
So in '84, when he went over there, I was kind of like, I'm going to watch games, listen to Harry. And, when he would get drunk at the early stage of that career, he was much more competent than as he aged.
Yeah.
But then I started listening to Steve Stone, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this dude is just an encyclopedia of baseball knowledge. He understood the way the game was played. He understood what was going to happen. Like, the pitcher's going to throw him a slider away right here before the sign's even thrown, because that's what I would do. And sure enough, it's the pitch and it's a strikeout.
If they didn't do that, it's because the Cubs were so inept at that point.
Right.
That he was telling them what they should be doing.
Don't say that on the air.
Yeah, and that led to his firing eventually.
But yeah, so then I just started watching Cubs games on a semi-regular basis. And as a kid, when you're home during the summer, and if it's raining, they're probably not on. But if you're just like going in to chill out, put the Cubs game on in the afternoon, because they were on in the afternoon. So I don't know. Harry Carey was part of my life for 20 some years. So
yeah, that's a good point.
He has a special place, and he has a special place in my heart. He always will. So
I'm
ranking, teared up over here.
Yeah, take it easy. We got along. This is only the first episode of this. Jesus. Well, I'm gonna put Benetti, that partnership with Benetti, at number one in my power rankings, at least, because it's kind of the perfect combination. You take the curiosity and the baseball acumen and all of it, and remove egos from the booth, and you can just tell those guys enjoy each other's company. It's a fascinating baseball conversation rather than a clash of egos or anything else.
Right.
And I think Benetti can set Stone up really well with questions, that can kind of lead the conversation, and let Stone be Stone, where Stoney could not be himself with Hawk as much as he wanted to, because that was Hawk's booth, and Hawk's ego is larger than the stadium itself. So maybe my reaction and my high ranking of Benetti and Stone is more of a reaction to how tense and how much I didn't like the broadcast with Hawk and Stone.
Well, I could see that. I mean, I think that's part of, everyone's reaction, but Benetti's got he's got a good, voice too. He's got that TV voice, and he's a lifelong Sox fan. So that also like adds to it, because he can bring his knowledge of what he grew up watching too when it comes to those moments in the game. But you could tell he loved listening to Stone too before getting to be his partner.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of admiration there. So yeah, they have fun together. And I don't know if you watched the broadcast the other night when White Sox Charities was in.
I did actually, yeah.
And there's going to be I saw the shirts posted on Twitter. You can buy a Steve Stone fan club or a Jason Benetti fan club t-shirt. Yeah. They're pretty funny. So, I mean, definitely much, I don't know if people are going out of their way to watch a White Sox game because of Stone and Benetti, but they're not watching White Sox games because of Stone and Benetti. Like they would avoid. Yeah. I mean, there were people who would say they would actually turn on the radio broadcast sound for a White Sox game, which to me, to listen to DJ and Ed Farmer, who was well past his prime, the late Ed Farmer, but during his prime was great on the radio, but they would turn that on versus Hawk. So,
well, I can say, I think Benetti and Stone are definitely a reason to turn on a baseball broadcast. I have done that, even as much as I can't stand the White Sox.
I know. I always feel like you're like, all of a sudden I'm like, why is he telling me about the game? Of course I'm watching it. What's he doing?
I could do without Benetti's, just incessant stream of dad jokes. But other than that, I'm going to rank them number one.
All right. So that's a fun little power ranking.
That's right.
So since we are still in the realm of my visit to the ballpark on Tuesday, I will tell you there will not be a new ballpark food frenzy, because I just went with a classic dog with onions. So I
really not even the Polish.
No, I didn't go Polish because we had we have some spicy Polishes we keep on hand here at the house. So I just had those a few nights earlier.
Oh boy.
So I just
went that up.
Went hot dog with. It was so good. I mean, it's easily a 9 to 10, no doubt about it.
So we're doing a food frenzy.
But anyway, that's why there won't be but I plan on getting the smoked wings on my next visit, or the smoked brisket. I'm not sure which one, but it'll be a new one.
Are those both new for 2022?
Well, the definitely the wings are. I'm not sure about the brisket, but they are smoked in-house. They have a smoker there that allegedly they show up early in the morning and start smoking the meat on a daily basis. But what I thought would be a fun new segment, at the time it was for MLA before we decided to do everything for MLA, but it was for In the Hole before we decided to do the Sox type thing, was when I visit games, I often, not often, every game, there are boxy coaches behind me or in front of me, but where I can pick up, guys, average fan giving their advice on what should be done with the team. So welcome to our new segment, Box Seat Coach.
Can we workshop this? Are you
What?
married to box seat coach?
Well, I thought of backseat driver,
I
boxseat
like that.
coach.
What about manager though? Aren't we
Oh,
typically talking
box
about
seat.
manager?
Yeah, box seat manager. That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Welcome to our new segment, box seat manager.
Yes, I love it.
All right. Yes, a good
I'm
call.
on board.
So I'm going to give you four things that I heard from a guy who progressively became very intoxicated by the seventh inning of this game. So
Is that the guy dancing in the aisle?
no, that was not that gentleman.
Another
I think
guy.
that guy was completely sober, by the way. Okay. Number one thing, Yasmani Grandal should never play another inning for the White Sox.
Wow.
Yes, that's some really good
Playing
sound advice. Yeah, that's definitely, we better get you down into the dugout.
Yeah.
This played out how we couldn't have asked for a better comment to be made based on what happened in Thursday's game. Berger should play over Mankata going forward. No, not at third base, not defensively. I think he should play over Harrison at second is what should happen.
That's the conversation to be having, but
yes, that's the conversation to be having. Next thing, Bummer sucks. He's useless. Get him out of the fucking game. Now Bummer had completed his after the inning ended his 11th and 1/3 inning of scoreless innings at that point, but he sucks. He's terrible. Don't ever use him again. He should never be in the game. And the final point he wanted to make, he is definitely saying it loud enough. You turned your mic off there.
Yeah.
He definitely was saying it loud enough for everyone to hear. Pitchers are pussies now. They only pitch 5 or 6 innings. Not like Burley, who used to pitch 9. Like Kopech should pitch 7, no matter what the pitch count. They're babies. So there you go. These are great coaching decisions that TLR should probably take with him. Now, granted, I'm sure our box seat manager would have not agreed with intentionally walking the batter on a 1-2 count. So maybe there is.
Were there a bunch of drunk guys calling for the intentional walk when it got to 1 and 2?
There were not that night. So that did not happen. But so box seat manager, we'll be doing this going forward because it does happen every game. This time I just decided to take notes.
We're gonna have to make some imaging for that, an intro of some sort. I'll make some graphics. You gotta help me with figuring out how to make an intro for it though.
We will brainstorm that. I'm glad you brought up the box seat manager. That is definitely what the segment is all about.
That's how we work together here at Major League A-Holes.
And sometimes you do it right on the air while everyone gets to listen to it. Most of the time. That's the best. By the way, guys, that sound is not me passing gas. The chair I'm in is very squeaky. Smitty.
That was me passing gas, actually.
Accused me of farting towards the end of last week's episode to where I had to point out if I move in this seat, it makes fart sounds.
We might have to work on that. We'll workshop that chair somehow. Put it into the workshop. Take care of that squeaking sound.
The next thing I want to get to is, as Smitty said, he launched for us the Sox Type Thing Twitter handle, and pretty much it's what do you want to? What were you saying? It's a White Sox war on Twitter, or the war of the White Sox on Twitter.
Oh yeah, White Sox Type Thing started out as your segment about how the ridiculous things you saw on White Sox Twitter,
right?
But we've evolved that obviously to its own Twitter feed and this podcast. So we kind of needed another name for when you see the ridiculous shit you've seen on White Sox Twitter. So we call it the war on White Sox Twitter or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, that's another thing. We'll maybe
this is too much workshopping on the air.
We're not going to workshop it on the air, but
we're figuring things out.
I asked a question on our new handle, so we're going to go into something I want to call the tweet bag to pull out the question I asked. So
bag.
As we know, we talked about this earlier. The people like to comment on the White Sox lineup the second it comes out. It is probably by far the most discussed thing
Joe
outside
Madden called those kind of people lineupistas.
Exactly. And
I like that.
Yeah, I did. I always liked that from Joe, the Joe looking for a job, Joe. Now
We'll be talking about that a lot on In the
uh,
Hole,
in the
episode
hole.
105 coming up.
Yes, coming up. But that being said, they love to comment. The only other thing they love to comment more about is their hatred for Tony La Russa. So
Yep.
I decided to post when the lineup came out. Hey, here's today's lineup. I know you guys have your opinions. Please take a look at the lineup and get back to me with your comments, and we will talk about them during our podcast this week. And I have done this one or two times before and have had zero responses. I think Smitty has tried it before too, and we've had like 0 to no responses. But I got one. All right. So I'm going to bring it up. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to the Twitter handle at Ben the Sox Fan for responding. And this is what Ben had to say. And I have to say, I agree with him 100%. This lineup is good except for Harrison. He's still doo-doo. Other than that, Vaughn is where he belongs, which is the number 2 hole, which I think we all agree he's thrived in that spot. And yes, I agree too that Harrison, despite him getting a triple in that game and coming home to score to take a early lead, 1-0 for the White Sox, he is not, he's a role player. But he was signed as kind of a fill-in to be a starting second baseman to probably play, I would say 75%, 66% of the games at that position, with Mendick and Garcia spelling him the other portion of those. But he's not good.
He can't hit.
He can't hit. And
this is what he looked like when he was at the Tigers 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And we talked about this as the season started, that he looked like he was trending upwards, but he's 35 years old, 36 now.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem like the right thing, especially since he seemed like just another Lurie Garcia statistically, and it's proven out. What I guess the question is, and you kind of mentioned it before when we were talking about Moncada versus Berger. Why can Berger just be your everyday second baseman? Wouldn't that be your best lineup?
I mean, he played it earlier this year for 3 innings. I don't know.
Maybe it's much tougher than laymen like you and I would think.
Yeah, maybe
play second base.
He
it's
said
not that easy.
He said he said in an interview the other day that obviously he would play second. He will play wherever they want me to play.
Yeah.
After what happened in yesterday's game, I got this Moneyball image in my head from the film when Billy Beane is frustrated that his lineup isn't being played the way he wants it.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there had to be a meeting call today to talk with La Russa. There had to be. And we may or may not know. And that's their business internally. But that would be something I would bring up in the meeting if I'm Rick Hahn, if it hasn't even been brought up already. Why are we not putting out the best team on the field to win? I understand every now and then you need to keep these guys who are role players fresh. But, that used to be the Ozzie Guillen Sunday lineup he rolled out there. Everyone kind of cringed when Sunday rolled around because you knew your regulars were going to get a rest from Ozzie. You knew someone was not going to be in the lineup. You're going to be, oh, shit, man. Are we going to, can we win this game? But you realize baseball's a long season, so no one's ever going to go 162-0. So, but if you got 7 games in a week, you got 6 games in a week, try to win 4, try to win 5, let's not settle for, we got to rest these guys over and over again throughout the week. So I don't know. I think everyone's just, it's time for Tony to go. I have given him the benefit of the doubt more so than a lot of other people, but I too at this point am just scratching my head. Especially yesterday's game is just like, that's why I posted. He must at this point. It's like he has too much pride to quit, so he's just trying to have them fire him.
That's not
So
going to happen. We talked about that last week on In the Hole.
yeah,
Reinsdorf is not going to jettison their elderly manager until at the earliest you predicted that when this season is over.
Right. So we'll just let this disaster play out.
I'll be watching.
Yes. So
it's entertaining as fuck. So
Ben at Ben the Sox fan tweeted me back and asked me to do him a favor because he had obliged with my tweet. And I said, sure, it's the world of Twitter. What's your favor? And he wanted to get this sort of grassroots movement going with the following tweet. If we as White Sox fans want to send Reinsdorf and Russa a message, we simply shouldn't show up to games or buy merch. If this organization doesn't care, why should we? Which is great in theory, but we don't show up to games now, which I couldn't let slide. So I pointed out to Ben. Last year, the White Sox won 93 games. We finished 14th overall in attendance. We were beat out by 4 teams who finished well under 500, Cubs included on that list. We finished half the attendance of basically teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees, who spend way more money than other teams. So I'm putting this back on the White Sox fans because we're drawing 23,000 people versus 21,000, which is about 2,000 more than we have drawn on average. Currently, we're 17th in attendance this year. You talk about you want the team to spend fucking money and you put your heart and soul in this team and all this shit, then show up to all the games like everyone else does. We have the 7th highest payroll in baseball.
That's one thing. The White Sox are spending money, so it's kind of a, and they haven't in the past, and this is kind of a new thing.
So we're spending money now, and you still don't come to the games. You guys are whiny bitches. I am. When I looked up the numbers, and not that I expected that much different than what I saw, but the fact that last year we weren't even in the top 10 after winning 93 games is an indictment of the White Sox fan base.
Wow. Well, I appreciate Ben's sentiment, and I think a lot of that comes from frustration, the fact that we're just fans sitting here and feel powerless, and the only way we could have some power is with our pocketbook, whether we buy tickets or merchandise or whatever. The unfortunate reality is, and we've talked about this again on In the Hole ad nauseum, the way baseball economics work, especially with shared revenues, means the fans really have zero say on the economic future of the teams. Attendance is fairly meaningless. Merchandise sales are fairly meaningless. That's all gravy on top, or the frosting on top of the cake.
Right.
The cake is the revenue sharing money that in this year is estimated to be $100 million for every single team in Major League Baseball. They all split their revenues, and the way it's coming out with all their national TV revenue, with Baseball Advanced Media, the website, and other business ventures, that is $100 million in every team's pocket before they open a door, before they sell one ticket, before they sell one hot dog with onions. That $100 million is automatically there, and that pays for more than half of the total salaries of half the league.
Right. It gives a profit to a lot of teams.
It does.
Before they even sell a ticket.
I've railed against this when I talk about my Oakland A's. Their payroll is at $33 million, so they were making a $66 million profit before they did anything, before they sold a single ticket this year. So, obviously the Sox are spending well over $100 million, but it's not hard to see how their revenues with everything else, will be more than enough to cover their expenses. So I like the sentiment, and I understand it. I think it's just a harsh reality that we'd like to have some power over the actions of our teams, and we don't. No matter how you slice it, whether you go to the games or not, whether you're trying to make a statement, it's a futile enterprise, and I feel bad. It'd be nice if we could get a grassroots movement going to shake up our teams. I've had similar thoughts with my Cubs, and not as much with my Tigers, but I've been very frustrated with the Cubs over the last couple of years, how they've chosen to run their finances, but we don't have any power, and I just think it's a sad reality. I like it. I mean, we can get a hashtag going,
but this one's not even accurate.
No,
see, that's the problem. This one is not even accurate. And you know what? The Sox have had one basically sellout season, and that was 2006, the year after they won the World Championship. They haven't just about every game.
They won a World Championship. I always forget about that.
Yeah. Well, you could. It's from 2005, but that was it. That was where I think we drew over 3 million that year or something like that. So, and we won 90 games, and there was no extra wild cards or anything. So we didn't, the Tigers decided to show up that year. And so was it the Indians? I mean, it was the Indians at the time.
Yes.
Right.
I don't
or was
remember.
it the Twins? One of the two were the other team to
it's probably the Twins around that time, but
yeah. So anyway,
I'm sure they got swept by the Yankees, but
anyway, what I say to White Sox fans is the White Sox can always, if you're, and I agree with everything Smitty said, like the power to the fans is becoming more and more meaningless compared to what it used to be. But at the same time, you want the White Sox to spend like the Yankees and like the Dodgers, then show up like the Yankees and Dodgers fans do. I mean, the Yankees still were at the top of attendance last year, and they didn't have a great season, so show up. Show up to the games, and then the Sox, not that that's may change anything, but there'll be no excuse that if you're running things like a business, good or bad, even though they have endless amounts of money based on the revenue sharing, if you're running things like a business and saying, we need to draw these many people to invest we need to draw this many fans to invest this amount of money into our team, you take that excuse away.
Yep.
But we don't do it. Robert and I had a conversation that when we're retired, if we're still in Chicago, we would probably have full season tickets just because we love just going to the ballpark and hanging out. To me, there's no better place in the world. And I've had full season tickets.
Yeah. You've been to 5 games already this year.
Yeah. So it's, there's no better place to me on the planet than just sitting in a ballpark. All right, to close out this episode, I have random notes, and one of them you brought up. I'll get to that one in a second. I want to start off with something sunny, though. After most of our podcasts have become sort of gloomy because our teams are all in disarray. So
well below 500.
As of Sunday, one of my favorite White Sox. I would say my favorite White Sox. And I think one of your favorite, if not your favorite, Luis Robert completed 162 games. So he completed a full season worth of games on Sunday. And what did that look like? That looked like a 6.5 WAR. Pretty good, not too shabby.
That's kind of good.
295 batting average, 835 OPS, 97 runs, 35 doubles, 30 homers, 94 RBIs, and 22 stolen bases.
Wow.
That's
a season.
Pretty good. So that is a sunny little note. I think he is the real deal. And I think since the White Sox have saved up money, one of my theories is they didn't spend because they want to give him a fat contract. So
isn't he already locked up for?
No, he's not. He's not one of the locked up guys.
Oh,
so
okay.
Perhaps some of the money was saved was for not spending like drunken sailors, even though they have the money to spend. I'm not here to say they don't. I'm just saying that these guys run it like a business, and whether we agree with it or not, which I don't, being super tight with money, but there could be money put aside for guys like Giolito and Robert to lock them down long term with the proper money they deserve. Another note is the Sox did, in the midst of this Dodger series, we neglected to say they took 2 out of 3 from the Rays in Tampa, in the gymnasium, where it's like a
concrete blister.
It's a house of horrors for them over the last like decade, and well, probably even before that. I think it's been there longer. But so against the Rays, Red Sox, against the Rays, Red Sox, and Yankees, they are 11-8 this year. They did lose all 3 games to the Blue Jays, so that puts them 11-11 against the AL East right now. Before the Blue Jays come into the town on the 20th, which I'll be there again in attendance for that because I wanted to see Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr. up close and live.
2 former Lugnuts.
2 fun guys to watch on the field. Injury update with Smitty had mentioned to me. Don't forget about the injury update for the White Sox.
Unfortunately, yes.
We'll start with the near and dear to Smitty's heart because of his fantasy baseball team. Lance
Slapdick motor finger.
That's right. That slapdick motherfucker, Lance Lynn.
We don't know that he said slapdick motherfucker. We're assuming. I think it was slapdick motor finger.
Okay, maybe it was then.
Hence my fantasy baseball team name.
But he had what was supposed to be his tune-up game on Wednesday night, which was supposed to be 5 innings, and I think it was around 80-some pitches. That turned into 3 innings, 6 earned runs, and 8 hits. However, he says he's ready to go. And I believe Tony said something to the lines, well, if he says he's ready, then I guess he's ready. So
yeah, I think what you could say about that is he's not worried about the results. He's just worried about the process and how he's feeling. So
yeah,
he didn't really care, but it would be nice to know that he was completely dominating the minor leagues in his outing. So it's a little disconcerting, but if he's healthy, I think he's going to be all right.
And I actually thought he would not join the team this week. Wow. Sorry. Whoa. They're holding him out a year after that performance.
You were trying to trade for him in our fantasy league.
That doesn't make any sense now, Pete. No, that he wouldn't join the team this week, that he would have one more outing down there, but it looks like he will be joining the team this week. So look for Lance Lynn to be back on the roster. I do believe I saw him in the dugout the other day. So that would point to signs of yes. On not so good news, the oft injured Eloy Jimenez has been shut down for about 5 days.
I've got a question. I've got an impromptu asshole.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Would you call Eloy Jimenez injury prone?
That's an understatement. He would be on my list of that I did not compile as my homework assignment of guys who may or may not still have trade value and might be worth trading to get someone who could play out there on a regular basis.
Well, that Rick Hahn bristles at that even notion, or that anyone would possibly say that he is injury prone.
Yeah. Well,
lazy analysis.
Well, a lot of GMs do take the, they're protecting the player, and they also don't believe in injury proneness with players, which I find is they believe that they get injured from playing hard. Okay. But if it happens over and over again, I would say you're injury prone. I don't know what else to say.
Hahn is essentially making a semantic argument that would, just like you said, to back his player and not to hurt his trade value potentially. But I just thought that came up over a month ago. I never brought it up, so I wanted to jab you with that here on the first Sox type thing.
You're not going to get an argument out of me that I think him, Manka, injury prone. Manka seems to have never recovered from COVID, to be honest.
I mean, is it long COVID?
He has not been the same since COVID.
Boy, that is.
And he had major symptoms. So
yeah, and there's the long COVID thing you hear about. That's kind of mysterious. So you don't really know what that means. But that was going to be the subject of another asshole question I might as well bring up now.
Go right ahead.
is he worth $22 million for the next 3 years? Because that's his average salary
Yeah, I
over
know
the
that.
remainder of his
You
contract.
mean when they signed him and it looked like a deal, and you told me, well, it may not. We have to
Oh,
see how it plays out. That
you
one.
remember that, don't you?
I remember everything. It's just choose what it's just when I decide to admit it.
I believe that was on episode what, like 78 or something of
Yeah,
In the
yeah, it was a while
Hold.
ago.
And
It was a while ago last
yeah.
year
Well,
because
that
you were.
might not be a great idea, even though a lot of
Uh,
Sox fans thought it would be
well, I
awesome.
mean, his numbers at the time, his WAR was through the roof for what he had played, and his numbers were all trending upward. I mean, I think the rest of this year, I will answer. Why don't we take that ass call, put it in your pocket, and pull it out at the end of the season, and then
Will do.
I will give you a real answer because I
Wow.
have not closed the book on Manka yet, and I believe the White Sox. He has not had a lot of major league at bats this year, and that's what everyone fails to realize at the moment. I've brought this up on Twitter. They keep saying he's injured. I don't think he's injured. I just think he didn't play a full spring. Well, no one played a full spring, but he played less of a full spring.
Right.
Then he had to go he did a quick rehab assignment because they wanted to get him up here. I mean, he's under 100 major league at bats this year, I believe. So, I mean, he needs some at bats. He needs to play on a regular basis every day. He needs to stop juggling the lineup and say, until Timmy and until Timmy comes back, if you want to juggle who's at shortstop, fine. But your starting lineup should be every day. We should see Pollock in the lineup, who I got an update on my phone is leading off today. AJ Pollock is today, Friday, June 10th, leadoff hitter. He'll be the third leadoff hitter for the White Sox since Tim Anderson has been injured. So, Pollock should play every day. Manka should play every day. Berger should play every day. Vaughn should play every day. Obviously, Abreu. I think Grandel should still play every day. Outside of spelling him for what he needs to do for rest reasons. Obviously, Lewis Robert, that goes without saying. So, and I think Adam Engel should get more playing time. I think the Sox are better with Adam Engel on the field than Gavin Sheets right now. I think everyone wants to get rid of Gavin Sheets or whatever. Maybe send him down to the minors and let him get some more at bats out on a daily basis down there. He had a great little streak at the end of last year. No one wanted to send him away last year at the end of the season. But we got to remember, he's a young hitter who doesn't even have a full major league season under his belt yet. So whatever. But the juggling of this lineup card every day needs to end.
Well, we started out as talk about Eloy being injured. What's the deal with Eloy at this point?
Sorry, I forgot. Oh my God, we really went off on we were down a rabbit hole on that one. Eloy has been shut down for 5 days, which Rick Hahn said is not alarming because it's normal leg soreness in regards to an injury like this. The reason I don't
does it sound logical to you? I mean, it's not a big deal, but it seems like a big deal to me if he's shut down while he's rehabbing. It just seems like Rick Hahn treats Eloy very differently than almost any other player, and he's very defensive about his physical health.
In regards to Hahn, what I'll say is I don't think he's ever really lied. At least not that anything that's been uncovered. He hasn't really led anyone astray about how injuries have worked for the White Sox.
Boy.
In fact, in most cases, everyone's come back early. This is like the one time someone's not coming back early.
I just think there's a lot of semantics with Hahn and how he talks about injuries, and which all of it doesn't matter. I mean, when they're healthy, they'll be back. But the way he talks about it is always fascinating to me because it seems like he's playing a lot of verbal gymnastics to kind of
Yeah, I mean, we'll know if for some reason Eloy doesn't come back and isn't playing after 5 days, maybe
Yeah.
it is a lot. It is worse than that, or something else happens when he's rehabbing again. But I think the thing that's more concerning about it is, if you read on in that, it was that the 5-day shutdown restarts the 20-day clock. I don't know if you read or heard that part of it.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure. I heard Mully and Haw talk about that on 670 the score this morning. And it sounded like they weren't really sure what that meant, if it was restarting the clock or if the clock would start back up the 20 games.
No, it definitely means that not, and they were clear, not that he may not come back sooner than that, but essentially they're saying
clear
as day, that the 20-day clock is back to day one when he takes the field again,
which is fine. I mean, they don't even have to come up with a 20-day clock. They could say anything they want. None of it matters, but it's just I just find it curious how Hahn always frames these things in a kind of a confusing, convoluted way. But again, when they're healthy, they'll be on the field. But it just seems specific to Eloy that these keep coming up. The scratch your head comments.
He's such a happy guy. That's why.
That's right. I want to see Eloy back. He is like the happiest baseball player ever.
I know.
So, even though he should be playing on the north side of town, but that's a whole nother subject we will get into at other times on Sox Type Thing.
There is good news. It looks like Timmy's going to start rehabbing next week. So that is really good news.
That's huge, considering how he looked when that groin injury first occurred. That was scary. So let's see if that does happen, but that would put him on the short end of that timetable. So that would be good news for the White Sox. In fact, it could work out that you're seeing an Eloy and Timmy getting activated around the same time, maybe, and then what do your lineup card should be pretty fucking easy to fill out. No more fucking excuses, right? Yeah.
I mean, everyone's had injuries this year, and for the most part, outside of Anderson and Jimenez, the Sox have more than enough power at that lineup to where they should be winning games and getting plenty of hits. So let's bury the injury excuse and let's fucking start winning some ball games.
I like it. I think that's a fantastic way to end this first episode of Sox Type Thing, unless you had any shit you forgot.
No, I got nothing.
I'm exhausted.
In the hole. I'm exhausted. I got to grab a beer for... That's a lot
of White Sox talk. I told you we needed your own podcast for all your Sox shit.
Well, I appreciate you. I do. I appreciate you, Smitty, giving this forum. And I know you're fascinated by the. I am
endlessly fascinated.
The soap. I think they are officially maybe like a soap opera of baseball, a drama of baseball, a baseball drama of the White Sox. So.
Endlessly entertaining. For all the years we've been doing this blog and podcast and everything else, I've been, if anything, endlessly entertained by your Southsiders. So, well, with that, I think we can wrap up this first episode of Sox Type Thing. You can find Pete's musings on Twitter at Sox Type Things. Sox Type Thing.
There will be plenty this evening, folks. Relax, sit back, and strap it down.
Yeah, we got to work that into your intro. I love that. The podcast can be found, I believe, on all major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon Music. I believe it'll populate to the smaller ones that fewer people have heard of eventually, but you can definitely get them on the major platforms. You can also, of course, get our In the Hole podcast on all major platforms, where we'll be discussing everything besides the White Sox, with the Cubs, Tigers, Giants, and A's, as well as the rest of Major League Baseball. And you can find, we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel, which is still called In the Hole. We might have to adjust that at some point, but I think I'll be posting like entire video episodes on that. So we'll see. This is as we said, this is an evolving thing. It used to be just a segment in the Hole. It's now a Twitter account. It is now its own podcast. We'll see where this goes. I like it.
It's a monster.
It's a thing. It's a Sox type thing. So with that, I'm going to declare this podcast is over. Peace.
Peace.